Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How's up? It's a two-man mission today. With lower numbers. Yesterday's podcast, I think, was one of the best we've done so far.
Yeah, mashallah.
The conversation really flowed. And as my admin and my panel at the back has also informed us, we've got to 100 subscribers.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah.
We need to now get to 313.
Inshallah. Let's do hashtag Badr.
Shall
we do that? Can we do that, admin? Hashtag Badr.
Hashtag Badr before the 17th.
Before the 17th, 313.
Let's see if you can get to that.
Inshallah.
And it's only going to be possible if everyone's sharing.
Yes.
So what I do is I've got a broadcast list. For the viewers that get my messages every day, please do forgive me. But I'm just really passionate that I want everyone to...
I'm in like 7 different group chats with you, so...
Did you get every single one?
About 8 different messages from Hafiz into one podcast.
Yeah, but what I want of everyone is to forward it, create broadcast list, or even in your family groups. You share it in there, or even as a WhatsApp status. The more people that listen to this, the more they'll benefit.
So I've got a question now, because I don't want to sound like old days, but...
Go for it.
I've come unprepared. What is the actual topic today?
Oh yeah, it reminds me of last year, isn't it? So last year, what used to happen was, we used to sit down every day unprepared, and I used to be asked, okay, so Hafiz, what's the subject for today? And I'll be like, oh my God, don't know what it is.
We just went with the flow.
Honestly, last year was...
the whole month.
It was just off the cuff. The whole month.
Today as well, so I'm still wondering, what is that topic then?
So I was thinking, one that has come forward a few times now, people want us to discuss finance. Because it's too early to get somebody who specializes in it and can give a proper detailed background insight to us. Let's keep it slightly generic, and where our specialization is in terms of Zakkah. I thought we could mention that a lot of people, because in the month of Ramadan they do give their Zakkah, and there are many misconceptions around this subject, and I think we need to discuss as many as we can in this short time that we have. So generally, Quran describing Zakkah, how is up? What does the Quran describe?
Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to Zakkah numerous times, almost as many times as He refers to Salah. Almost as many times. And I think that's quite overlooked. Often when people reach the age of maturity, they're very well aware that I need to start praying Salah as well. But I don't think we're getting pounded in and drilled into our head the same importance that we need to give for Zakkah. Almost everywhere it's Aqimus Salah
wa Atu
Zakkah. Yuqimuna Salah wa yu'tuna Zakkah. All the time.
The two always come together, don't they?
All the time. And one is like a sacrifice of our time, which is our greatest commodity, and the other one is our sacrifice of the second greatest commodity, which is our wealth. And in fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, what ayah comes to mind is لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. We can't even attain piety till we give that zakah. In fact, the ulama of tasawwuf say that your spiritual progression is barriered until tadfa, until you pay it. When you pay it, now you get to rise.
Allah.
So, yeah.
There's obviously the physical aspect of your life, which is your submission, your head on the floor in the form of a sajda, and then the financial submission to Allah as well. That when He demands of your financial sacrifice, you're willing to give it. And from the many hikmahs of zakah, ulama have addressed this in great detail, is to remove the desire and love for dunya from your heart. Allah. And it's almost by force. When we give optional sadaqah, khairat, lillah, and all these are all optional. And only when you have that financial, let's suppose, cash flow, then you'll be willing to give that extra £10 here, £15 here, £20 here. That's optional. But zakah is like really for those people that really hold on to that wealth so badly, they don't want to let go. So Allah's forcing it out of them. You're going to have to give it.
It's called zakah for a reason. Zakah means you need to purify something.
To purify, yeah.
Like we could say, I need to do tazkiyah. Zakah is the same word there. It means purification. Purification of your heart by giving from your wealth.
Yeah, and purification of your wealth as a whole, because Allah is the one that's giving you that wealth. I mean, for a moment, if you want to, like you say, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ, you do not attain the highest darajah of iman. حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ, until you spend from that which you love most. If you look at it, not just limiting it to wealth, and broaden the meaning of bir, مِمَّا تُنْفِقُ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُونَ. It could also mean anything that you love most.
Anything. In fact, Allah gives a full list of what we love.
Yeah.
زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. So it being from the spouse, from the women folk. وَالْبَنِينَ وَالْقَنَاطِيرَ, and Allah goes into wealth. So almost everything has a zakah.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember there is a story of Sayyidina Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. And his students asked him, Hadithna, give us a hadith. He goes, have you given the zakah of hadith?
Allah.
They said, well, what's the zakah of hadith? He said, out of every 200 hadith, you must act upon 5. That's the zakah of hadith. And then I'll give you more hadith afterwards. Everything has a zakah.
Yeah, subhanallah, subhanallah. So giving after that which you love most. Now for a businessman, someone who's got millions, for him money is nothing.
Yeah.
For him the most precious thing in his life is time. You know, then there'll come a stage in your life where time is money. So when Allah says you've got to give from that which you love most, He knows money doesn't mean anything to you now. So it's not really money that He's looking for now. Yeah. If you prize time over wealth, that Allah is saying you won't attain the best level of iman until you give your time for Allah. Yeah? And mal as a whole, when we discuss money and wealth, it's from the blessings of Allah. And at the same time, it's a challenge from Allah as well.
Yeah. In fact, I think there was a scholar, he mentioned, why is money in Arabic, they call it dinar? Because with it you can better your deen, or with it you can take yourself to the nar, to the hell.
Deen and nar. Depends which one you go for.
Yeah, it can be. Look, we're seeing in society now that people who have more money, generally speaking, they're the ones who do cause more corruption. They're the ones who are, doing all the evil in society. Is the elite, we see, right at the top. Yeah. They're the ones who are doing all the evil in society. So we see that money can really take you towards...
Money talks, isn't it? Money talks. And with money, like, big banking corporations, you've got big businessmen, they actually influence policy making in countries. Yeah, and depending on which way the business community sways in, the policies of the country can be changed.
Yeah, we touched on this in the previous podcast about illicit content, that I think it was Maulana Adnan who said, now there's so many schemes out there trying to address health and this and that.
Yeah.
But why is that industry not being addressed on a government level?
Yeah.
Is because it's extremely beneficial for them. They're lining their pockets with this sort of stuff.
Allah. So wealth is a blessing from Allah, and there's nothing wrong in wanting wealth, in wanting that blessing from Allah. But at the same time, it comes with a responsibility, and from those responsibilities is that when Allah has given you that wealth, that you share that wealth with those that don't have that much, or those that are not as fortunate as you are. And Allah dictates that in the form of zakah, that it must be given and you must be sharing your wealth with those that are needy. And if you, zakah, how much is zakah? Come on.
It's nothing.
It's absolutely nothing. Compared to what Allah has given you, it's nothing. I mean, if you meet the silver threshold to a value of silver, then you must give zakah according to silver. And if you're meeting the gold threshold, then you give zakah on the gold threshold. And in current times, just before Ramadan, as part of my prep on this subject, so every year you must know, now this is something for the listeners as well, for the viewers, every year you must ask your local jewelry shops, what's the value of gold and silver? You can't be giving zakah of the value of gold from 10 years ago. Because I made one calculation 10 years ago, every year I'm just going to keep giving the same amount. It doesn't work that way. The up-to-date value of gold and silver. So just before Ramadan, so we're talking 2 weeks ago. And if somebody's giving zakah today, you'll have to ask the jeweler today what the value is. 2 weeks ago, silver threshold was coming to about £350. And the gold value was just nearing 4,000.
Okay, wow.
It was fluctuating rapidly every day. Like in the morning, it could be 3.9, and in the evening it could be 4. It's constantly changing. And if somebody has £350 of savings in their account or at home, you have to pay zakat upon it. A misconception in the community is that only when I have a business, when I'm married, when I'm of that age, I will then start to give zakah. That is wrong. And like Hafiz, you touched on, just the way salah is fard as soon as you hit puberty. and everyone's emphasizing at home, beta, you have to give your namaz, do your daily five namaz. Parents also need to insist, beta, if you have monies, and in nowadays age, kids have a lot of money,
They actually do, yeah.
Yeah, I remember back in my days.
Nowadays, yeah. We felt rich with like a £5 note or
that was
£2 coin.
Subhanallah. No, that actually, I remember our Eid money used to be on a good Eid, it was £25.
MashaAllah.
On a good Eid. And nowadays, it's like every child has got almost 60, 70, 80, 100 pounds of just Eid money that he's collecting. Now, if a child is baligh or balighah and you hit puberty, from that day, your financial year begins in terms of Islamic financing. We're not talking about, like the Western financing in UK is from April 5th till April 5th, yeah? That's your accounts and things. And the elder generation will be able to relate to that better. But for children, the moment your child becomes baligh or balighah, your financial year, your accounting starts then. Just like your salah starts then, your zakah starts then as well. And if that child has £350 of savings, maybe in the form of Eid monies, birthday monies, or he's been given gifts for whatever reasons and for his achievements and stuff. Schools give you gift cards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They all hold value. You must accumulate all of that, do an account. Whether you're at that age or when you're in your older age, you have to account for everything you've got in your pockets, whether you have money stored in your pillows, under your mattresses, piggy bank thing, in your pockets, or even some people start storing them under your wood flooring as well, under the planks, wherever you may store money. Allahu Akbar. We have some weird stories.
What would be amazing is if you were to teach a child from the age of bulugh about zakah, how conscious would they be of money throughout the rest of their life? They would have actually skills to manage money, to be conscious of their spending and all of that. Yeah. Rather, what you wait for them is to become 21, even sometimes 23, and then you start teaching them about money, wealth, management and stuff. By then it's too late. All his habits are embedded, his spending's embedded in his life. He can't all habits
from the skills that a child needs to have, he needs to be able to manage money.
Yeah.
A lot of parents, they actually are negligent in this. They don't allow their child to touch money or have any money or control money. As a result, when he hits 16, 17, he goes to college, and the first time he gets EMA or something like that, these guys all over the world, £30 coming in every month or every week or something. How much is it nowadays? You don't know?
I don't even think they call it that anymore. Is that what they call it?
Do they even give that stuff anymore?
Oh, well, I don't know.
Well, in my days, it used to be £30, I think, a month or something like that. We used to be buzzing. Yeah, £30 coming in. But that's because I understand that parents are being protective. But at the same time, in order to build their confidence...
Yeah, you're not being responsible. Protective, but that's not really being responsible.
Yes. And when they have monies like that, Eid monies, pocket monies, gift monies, birthday monies, all put aside, and it comes to £350, you must pay zakat upon that. That child, that daughter, that son must pay zakat. Yeah. And if you have siblings, for the viewers that are listening, then you must, teach them that, look, zakah you have to give. And how much is zakah? 2.5%, yeah, come on. And 2.5%, let me just do the math on screen for you, is, number there. So 1% is £3.50, 2% is £7, and how much is that going to be then? £8.75. £8.75 is the zakah you need to give once a year. You're not asking every month or every week. It's once a year, man. Is that really difficult? That's nothing. Every child should be giving that anyway. In fact, Maulana Qasim, a very good friend of mine, was mentioning, whenever you give a sadaqah, make intention of zakah.
Allah.
Make intention of zakah. And he says the reason is because if you've missed zakah in the past, then this sadaqah you're giving may just be making up for that missed zakah that you had never given from a young age. And if you have made any overpayments in zakah, then again, that converts into your sadaqah anyway. So that's one good practice we should be getting on to. If you meet the threshold of gold, then you must pay zakah on according to the gold threshold, which is £4,000. And 2.5% of that is how much? Come on, guys, you got to help me out in the background. 2.5% of 4,000.
4,000.
What, £60 or something like that? £100. £100 is what you're going to give if you've got £4,000 in savings. Now, it doesn't always have to be money in the account. You add that money, you add monies that you've got in your pillows, under your blankets, under your mattresses, wherever you've got money. Hatta ki ulama say, even the pennies that you've got in the car, yeah, and you've got loose change, account for that as well. That's also your wealth. And you must give zakat upon that. If that's missed out, you'll be held accountable on the day of judgment.
Just to clarify, Ozair, you said the zakah for silver was how much?
£350.
And how much you have to give in zakah?
So that'd be £8.75.
So let's say someone's got £800, he still has to give the zakah of silver only.
Yeah,
He doesn't have to give on the 800.
No, so he gives it on the 800 that he has now. So 350 is a threshold. Anything beyond that, you're taking 2.5% of that. You've got 800, you've got 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. You just got to keep paying 2.5% of that. But the bare minimum. So if you've got £345, you don't meet the threshold. You don't need to give. You're not eligible anymore. Man, woman, male, female, old, young, there is no distinction of such. Everybody must be giving zakat independently. Because when you become aqil, baligh, you're an independent individual responsible for your own rights. And another misconception is that, zakat is only applicable on gold. So these scenarios I'm going to give you in the next half an hour or so, they're all problem questions that were put forward. And we've responded to these. These are live, proper questions.
Yeah.
So a fella came to the masjid and said, I've never given zakah. I'm like, wow, why have you not given zakah? He goes, zakat's only upon gold. And I ain't got no gold. My wife has all the gold. So she pays the zakat. I've never paid anything. Big misconception. That was the first time I heard that. And it only highlights how much ignorance there is on this subject.
Yes.
People just do not know how to calculate zakah. And zakah is always going to be on savings. It's not on things that you use. Yeah. So a common question is, Imam Sahib, I've got 5 cars. Do I need to pay zakah on them? You don't. Because those cars are in your use. There's no zakat upon that. Imam said, I've got 2 houses and I use both houses. There's no zakat upon those houses.
We've got a question from
for example,
live audience.
Live audience, by the way, yeah?
Say, for example, you buy and sell cars.
Yep.
So one car you keep to use, but the rest of them have to buy and sell. Do you then pay zakat on that?
Yes, I'm going to come to that. So, zakat is only applicable on your savings. You've got 100 cars, you've got a garage. You'll pay on the value of those cars. Yeah? Once they sell, the monies that you have in your savings, that's what you pay zakat upon. That makes sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
You're only paying on the savings you have. Things that you are in your use. I've got a huge 90-inch plasma screen. Do I need to pay zakat upon it? No, it's in your use. Yeah? I've got like £1,000 chandeliers in the house. It's in your use. You don't need to pay zakat upon it. Zakat is only and only upon your savings. Whatever saving, whatever form it may be, as long as it's a liquid asset, and that may be a slightly posh term, you have to pay zakat upon it. So when I say liquid asset, if you've made investments online, you have investments abroad, and they are liquid assets, you have to pay zakat upon them. Those that hold value. You do not pay zakah on property of such. So an example is, I've invested in, let's suppose, Samsung, in Apple, or I've invested in Nike.
Yeah.
These big companies, and they then take your share and they invest it on somewhere.
Yeah.
Majority of companies will invest your money, and they like to keep liquid assets between 20 to 30%.
Okay.
The rest they invest in property. So problem scenario. I'm investing in Apple, and I invest £10,000, for example, in the company. Apple then invests that money on my behalf in wherever they go. And here, for the viewers, again, something I like to highlight. You must know where you're investing. If Apple is going to use your money and invest that in alcohol, invest that in pork, invest that in the adult industry or something like that, then these are all haram outlets of that money. you cannot invest in such a company. Yeah, and tomorrow, inshallah, I'm trying to get hold of somebody who's a specialist in finance to give us more detail in that, as in what companies would invest your wealth in, what's right and what's wrong, and what are the halal ways that we can invest money today in this climate that we live in. So if your liquid asset that you've invested in only makes 20%, so if I've invested £10,000, then £2,000 of mine remain as liquid assets. I only pay zakah on liquid assets. So the rest £8,000, again going back to the Apple scenario, Apple invested it in buying land, or they were buying properties. They were constructing something, yeah, for their new offices or for a new place that they should be running their works. There's no zakah on that 8,000. Only on the liquid assets which hold value and are withdrawable straight away. Only on that 2,000 now. After a year, let's suppose the company had grown double in its size. Yeah. So my share, which was 10,000 I invested, has now become 20,000. My liquid asset, which was 2,000, after a year became 4,000. I must pay 2.5% of that 4,000, which is liquid asset, which is going back to the £100 we just said. Yeah. That's what you need to pay zakat upon. And that's how the liquid asset term, I just thought I'll elaborate on that one.
So I've got a question from a viewer.
Go on. Whoa, where are you sharing this?
I've got this on WhatsApp. I've sent it all over WhatsApp.
Okay.
Instagram, Snapchat.
Alright. Instagram questions. Oh, come on, nice. Bismillah.
So,
by the way, we're not muftis. Let me just explain.
Whatever answer you do get, if you have a local mufti, you should consider.
Ask a local mufti. Otherwise, if you want a solid answer, yeah, and you want it in writing, then yes, we can give it to you in writing. Yeah. But this is why I'm giving you general scenarios. Your questions may be tailored for your individual needs and may need addressing individually.
You know, I just wanted to comment before that question you bring in about not knowing where your wealth goes to. We have to remind ourselves.
That's really problematic.
That we're responsible for our wealth, and you will be brought to account for every pound and penny. So the fact that you don't even know if your wealth is halal or haram is a major thing. On Qiyamah, you will be brought to account for this. Allah will quiz you on this, and His quizzing on Qiyamah is a punishment in of itself. Allah knows what is then going to be followed up because of your haram wealth. In fact, there's a narration from a Sahabi. He said, the one who earns haram, man iktasaba malan haraman fatasaddaqa bihi, and then he tries to give charity with it or give zakah with it, he's like that one who cleans his clothes with urine. Allah won't accept it. Inna Allah tayyib la yaqbal illa tayyiba. What's pure from you. So we should be very, very responsible in this regard. Where's my wealth coming from? Where's my wealth going to? What's it being used for? So we need to have that responsibility.
Yeah, like I was saying at the beginning, wealth is a blessing from Allah, but at the same time it's a huge challenge. And especially in the West, we are able to invest now in so many different avenues, and it's made so easy to invest now. We've got little kids, 16, 17-year-olds that are investing online, but they don't know where the money is going. People are doing forex exchange, which is haram. It's all an interest-based industry. It's all based on interest. I've looked into it so deeply with other friends as well that were getting involved from quite a while back, and every one of us pulled out. Yeah. Say, look, there is no justification for it, but everyone's on it.
You know, the wealth that you have, that's where you buy your clothes from, you buy your food from, you buy your daily sustenance with. But even just having a morsel of haram food in your stomach, or a patch on your clothes that was bought from haram wealth, Allah won't accept your dua. Allah will reject you that just because of that one little piece. In fact, there's that hadith that comes in the 40 hadith of Imam, where halfway through the hadith, ثم ذكر رجلا, then the Prophet mentioned a man that يطيل السفر, he's had a long journey, he's all messy, he's all scruffy, he's had a grueling long journey, and he's raised his hands to Allah and he's making dua. Can you imagine someone in such a situation? He's very desperate in it. You'd think Allah's going to accept it. He's so desperate, he raises his hands to Allah. But the Prophet mentioned about that guy, مَلْبَسُهُ haram, مَشْرَبُهُ haram, what he eats is haram, what he's wearing is haram, his food is haram, his drink is haram, everything about him, وَغُذِّيَ بِالْحَرَامِ is haram. So how is Allah going to accept
فَقَالَ يَا رَبِّي يَا رَبِّي. and then he wants Allah to accept his du'as.
It's not going to happen.
I'm just mentioning picking on that. The hadith also describes, so in the precaution in making sure our earnings are halal, every penny has to be halal. To an extent, the example ulama gave is, would you drink from that bowl of milk if all it had was one drop of urine? Just one. So minor. You've got 5 liters, 5 gallons of milk. Pure milk. Just one drop of urine. Would you have from that milk? You wouldn't. So why are you taking from your wealth? Why are you allowing even that one drop of urine into your wealth? And the hadith says that, a really practical example the Prophet ﷺ gave. Subhanallah, it's so beautiful. A person who earns haram and he's gone out on a boat and he's bought a garment. And the example the Prophet ﷺ gave, that 9 portions, so the example given, 9 dirhams were halal, 1 was haram. So 90% of his earnings were halal, only 10% was haram. He goes out and buy, so in contemporary terms, you went out and bought a top for £10. 9 pounds were halal, only 1 pound was haram. The Prophet ﷺ said, for as long as you have that garment on, in that garment, not a single fard, not a single nafil of yours is being accepted. And you're there praying away, you've come to Taraweeh and you're fasting and you're like, MashaAllah, be feeling so spiritual. But in reality, when your earnings are haram, that salah, that sadaqah, that sawm of yours is being smashed into your faith. And this is how much precaution ulama have taught us, to being so sure. So when people are investing online, I really do ask, have you really asked your local Imam or Mufti Sahib, I'm investing in such a company and they will invest my wealth on my behalf. Is it jais for me or not? A more common example, pensions. You know, my pension contributions, for example, employer takes and he invests it somewhere on your behalf. Now you have 2 types of pensions. You have a private pension, that's upon your choice where you want to invest it, or your employer invests it on your behalf. For example, you're working for GMP, the police service, or you're in the NHS. They will take 3% of your earnings every month and they will deposit it into your private pension, into your pension. Now, do you know where NHS is spending that? No. Have you asked? Most likely, no. And if they're investing it in haram, in the production of alcohol, pork, adult industry, or so many different ways which are haram, all of that is going to come back to you one day, isn't it? You're investing in their haram business that they are investing on your part. You will be held accountable for that.
So let's say you've now got a pension.
Your mic on, yeah? Okay.
Got a pension and it's from one of these private companies. And now we know it could be haram or we're going to be accountable. How do we go about changing this now?
So the obvious thing that you could do straight away is to ask where NHS is investing that money of yours. Where does it go to? And if you know if there's a haram outlet, then you can stop. You don't have to contribute towards your pension. It's an optional thing. In fact, when I was looking into it recently, the conclusion I came to was, it's better for you to invest your money than to deposit in pensions because of the risk involved. It's like, the athar we know from the companions, that they would leave at times even halal out of precaution that it could be makrooh. There may even be a possibility that it be disliked. But yet it was halal, they would leave it.
I've got a narration from Imam Wahb ibn Munabbih.
Yeah.
And he mentions the story of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. So Musa alayhi salam, he passed by a man, marra bi rajulin qa'im yad'u. He was stood and he's praying to Allah. And he's وَيَتَضَرَّعُ طَوِيلًا. He's humbling himself so much and he's calling out, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. And he's looking into the sky and nothing's happening. Then he saw Musa alayhi salam. He knows Musa is a prophet. He said, O Musa, because Ya Musa, why is your Lord not replied to me? Why is your Lord not replied? Why is he not accepting my dua for this slave of yours? So Allah inspired to Musa alayhi salam and said, Ya Musa, even if he called out to me till he perished himself, or even if he raised his hands until his hands reached the sky, no matter what he did, I would never accept his dua. So Musa said, لماذا يا رب? Why is that, Ya Allah? Ya Rabbi, lima dhalik? Why? Allah said, لأن في بطنه حرام. وعلى ظهره حرام وفي بيته حرام.
Lord.
Because in his tummy there's something haram, on his back, his clothes, there's something haram, and in his house there's something haram. Allah will never accept it. You can't play with that, man.
That is no messing around, and you have to know where your money is going, where you're investing, how your money is coming in, where is it coming in from, if it's fraud, if it's unlawful claims you've done. You had absolutely nothing wrong. Our community is known for claiming whiplash. What it's called, whiplash, isn't it? Yeah. Every next month's doing it. Nothing happens, and I've got whiplash, getting a few £1,000s, and it's like all we want is money. Just let it come in, no matter how it comes. How many parents, when they see their young teenager, their son, getting about in a RS3, have you never questioned, son, where did you get that from? At your age, I grafted 16-hour jobs in factories, and I never made that much money. And all my life, I've never been able to pull a 5 Series. Where you get an M5 from? Where does that come from? Mothers and fathers need to be asking their sons, Beta, where is this money coming from?
Even in Arabic, they call it mal. And what does mal come from in Arabic? Mail means a number of things. It can mean to lean towards something. It could mean to drag something down as well, to pull it down. Why? Because when you have wealth, it's going to pull you down spiritually. It's more fitna for you. And people lean towards you. It's a reason why people come towards you as well. That's why people try to amass wealth, because they think more people are going to be more popular. In fact, there's a poem of Imam Shafi comes to mind. He said, رَأَيْتُ النَّاسَ قَدْ مَالُوا إِلَى مَنْ عِنْدَهُ مَالٌ وَمَنْ لَا عِنْدَهُ مَالٌ فَعَنْهُ النَّاسِ قَدْ مَالُوا رَأَيْتُ النَّاسَ قَدْ ذَهَبُوا إِلَى مَنْ عِنْدَهُ ذَهَبٌ وَمَنْ لَا عِنْدَهُ ذَهَبٌ فَعَنْهُ النَّاسُ قَدْ ذَهَبُوا رَأَيْتُ النَّاسَ قَدْ انفضوا إِلَى مَنْ عِنْدَهُ فِضَّةٌ وَمَنْ لَا عِنْدَهُ فِضَّةٌ فَعَنْهُ النَّاسُ قَدْ فَضُّوا. He said, I saw people, they run towards people who have wealth, and the one who has no wealth, they run away from him. The one who has gold, people go to him. The one who has no gold, people go away from him. So wealth is one of those things that brings people towards you, but that's fitna for you. Wealth is fitna. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ what does Allah say in the Quran?
أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ.
Allah Akbar. Your children and your wealth is fitna, the tribulation for you. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ عِنْدَهُ أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. But with Allah is the greater reward.
No, so true. Ajit, the question now, going back to your question after this long detail.
Yes, so
I think this was needed discussion, just to make it clear. Allah only accepts that which is pure.
Yes.
And the precaution we have to take to make sure our wealth is pure and it's not coming from any haram means. Ji, bismillah.
So this question is, so someone has property and they sell the property or other asset and they receive 3,000k for it, and it's a day before his
property.
3,000.
Probably
300,000 pounds. Sorry.
Okay.
And it's a day before his zakat payday.
Yep.
Does he pay his zakat on the 300k?
Yes. Let me explain the concept first. Once you meet the threshold, and I'm gonna pluck out a date. Let's say 10th of January is your zakat day. From that day till 10th of January 2024, that's your financial year. Even though you should go by the Islamic calendar, you go back 10 days. Yeah? Because if you keep going by the English calendar, after 35 years, you'll end up missing one entire year of zakah. Because it goes back 10 days. So it's best to go by Islamic date. So let me change my date I gave you. Let's say somebody gives it on the 1st of Ramadan every year. Till next Ramadan, that's your financial year. When it comes to Ramadan 2024, the night before the first of Ramadan begins, you receive, let's in this case, £300,000 in money because you sold the property. You must pay zakah on all of that. Let's suppose you had 500k in savings, for argument's sake. You lost it all the night before Ramadan began. You don't pay any zakat upon it. So when the first of Ramadan comes, and whatever money, whatever it may be, it doesn't matter I've had it for one day or I've had it for 1 month, but you are above the threshold, you must pay zakat upon it. Yeah.
The year passes over it. So why is it then a lot of people are giving zakah in Ramadan? Why is that a common thing?
That's actually is wrong,
Yeah, so what is it if you're not interested?
People go for that because there's more reward. every good deed, every fard is multiplied by 70 in this month. So the motivation is, if I give zakah in the month of Ramadan, I'd get 70 times the reward. It's all to do with the reward. But in reality, zakah has nothing to do with Ramadan. It's to do with your financial cycle. And the moment you hit 350 in silver, that's when your financial accounting begins. So if that's happened on, let's say, 5th of Ramadan, then till next year, 5th of Ramadan, your wealth will go up and down. Yeah, it will fluctuate. You will make business, you will lose money, you will make money. You'll meet the threshold above and you'll come down the threshold as well. Doesn't matter. But at the end of the year, if you're still above the threshold, you're going to give the zakah. Whether you receive the money the night before your zakah payday or a month before.
Is it on the Gregorian calendar?
No,
or is
Islamic,
it on the Hijri calendar?
The Hijri calendar, this is what I mentioned.
Issue, isn't it?
Yeah, the Hijri calendar. Otherwise, if you're going by the English calendar, after 35 years, you will have missed one entire Islamic year. That's 1 year of zakah not paid. And a person who doesn't pay zakah then, Hafiz could lead me on the ayah, يَوْمَ يُحْمَى عَلَيْهَا فِي نَارِ جَهَنَّمْ فَتُكْوَى بِهَا جِبَاهُهُمْ وَجُنُوبُهُمْ وَظُهُورُهُمْ هَذَا مَا كَنَزْتُمْ لِأَنفُسِكُمْ فَذُوقُوا مَا كُنْتُمْ تَكْنِزُونَ.
In fact, we're reading this tomorrow.
Yeah, it's coming out tomorrow.
Tarawih.
يَوْمَ يُحْمَى عَلَيْهَا فِي نَارِ جَهَنَّمْ. Allah says that in Jahannam, all the wealth of yours will be burnt. Yeah? It's like metal which becomes molten. Yeah? فَتُكْوَى بِهَا. You'll be stamped with it. You're just like an animal. He's a stamped. There's a term for it, is it in English? What's it called?
I don't know, but that is something shepherds do. They'll get the hot rod and
there's a specific name for it. So you get stamped with that as a label.
Yeah.
Allah says that wealth of yours, branding, that's the word, yes. So you'll be branded with that on the day of Qiyamah.
On your forehead.
On your forehead. فَتُكْوَى بِهَا جِبَاهُهُمْ وَجُنُوبُهُمْ وَظُهُورُهُمْ. On your back, on your side, on your forehead. You'll be branded like that. And Allah will say, فَذُوقُوا.
This is what you've amassed for yourself. هذا ما كنزتم فذوقوا ما كنتم.
This is all the wealth that you didn't give zakah upon. Yeah, now here it is. فَذُوقُوا مَا كُنْتُمْ تَكْنِزُونَ. Taste it now. So you have to be vigilant, you have to be aware. And for the viewers, youngsters, as soon as you hit you're hitting puberty, you become mature and you have money, you have to become very sensitive of your money. Where you're spending, where it's coming from. And at the end of the year, being aware and giving zakah. If somebody hasn't given zakah for many years, by all means go to your account, your bank society and ask for your bank statements from the last 10 years if need be. I had a brother just about 2 years ago came to me, Imam Sahab, I've not given zakah, and I just realized I was eligible to give zakah. So what do? Well, you've got to pay it all. How do I pay it all? Go to your bank society and ask them to print out your bank statements from the last 10, 15 years. He brought the whole pile to me.
No.
The sincerity of that brother was, he actually went through it all. So when he first opened an account, I think he was only about 15. So he started at zero. So for that year, you go on Google and you find out for that year, let's suppose it's year 2000.
The Hijri date.
Yeah, the Hijri date, yeah. That this was the value in silver. Let's suppose it was £200 20 years ago, yeah. The moment his account had £200, we highlighted it, that's your zakah year beginning. You flick through all the pages, 1 year forward, he met the threshold, you take out per year, this is how much you're going to be doing. And that brother, mashallah, he then calculated his 10-15 years of zakah, gave all in one go.
I've got a question.
You have to make the effort.
Can someone give zakah in advance? Let's say he knows what he's going to have on that day, and so he gives it now.
Yeah, you can.
You can give it in advance.
You can.
So he's factored in, maybe I'll have more or less, and I'm giving that amount now.
Yeah. So keep a record on your phone. Per month, let's suppose you're giving £50. But the condition is the big, bold, writing in gold, do as you're told. Yeah? You guys have heard that many times. Is you must make intention of zakah. If on a monthly basis I'm giving to someone poor who is mustahiq, who is eligible to take zakah, which is another subject on its own, you must make a note of it. So Ramadan I gave £50, in Shawwal £50, then after that in all the months of the year, I kept giving him £50. After 12 months, how much is that? 600 pounds I've given in with the intention of zakah. When it comes to the next Ramadan, you then do your calculations. Let's suppose your zakah does come to 600 pounds. Happy days, your zakah fulfilled. It's not become a burden that you have to give in one big go. If it's more, that you had to give 800 pounds zakah, then you give that extra 200, job done. If it was less, then the extra 50, 60, 100 pounds that you gave, that's good enough.
Can you intend with the excess that was left to Fadl, that I intend this for my next zakah?
No, it has to be per year. When the year begins, that's when you're meeting the threshold, and then you give.
So let's say I did give £50 a month, came to £600, but my zakah was only £400 at the end of that year per calculation. So that £200, can I not make the intention that I'm giving this for my next year as well now?
For my next year as well. But me, it's like, I don't think that applies, because like that you can give many £1,000s in one go and say that's my next few years with zakah done in one go. It doesn't work that way. Go on, we got a live audience question. Go on.
So if a person, his financial year begins, and then on the second year, if he doesn't meet the threshold, does he wait until he meets the threshold? Or
There's no zakah. No zakah.
And when does the financial year begin? Is it the same date for your entire life?
Yes, so your financial year, so the example I gave was 5th of Ramadan. When it comes to 5th of Ramadan the following year, if you meet the threshold that day, you must pay zakah. If you don't meet the threshold, there's no zakah.
She shows you how easy it is.
Yeah. Just like if the night before you were to receive, like the question we had, 300k came in, he's got to pay on the 300k.
What if the 300k came in, and of that, he 99% of it was, owed to someone. He had a debt to pay off.
Then he pays the debt first.
He pays the debt.
So
how does that work with people who have mortgages and these long-term debts?
Good question. So Islam protects the dignity of insan before anything else. And part of your dignity is that if you owe somebody monies, you pay that money first. Allah's not going to say, look, you've got to give my right first above the people that you owe. Their haqq is due first. And if you know somebody is waiting for that money and you owe somebody monies, then you reduce that from your savings and you pay that first. So let's suppose my savings, for argument's sake, is £10,000. I owe somebody 3,000. I must take that 3,000 and I have to make the effort on the spot, give him that 3,000 that I owe him. Now I've got 7,000. I pay zakah on my 7,000. Let's suppose my total savings were 5,000. I owed somebody 3,000. By paying him that 3,000, I no longer meet the threshold. I've only got £2,000 left, and the threshold is, I still meet the silver threshold, don't I? Yeah, I'll take the amount off. Whatever I'm left with, I take 2.5% and I pay that. But these are those debts. Ulama have differentiated now. These are those debts which are due now.
Urgently.
Mu'ajjal. And you know the one asking for that money can be knocking on your door any time. Yeah? Let's say it's a sibling, it's a friend, it's a cousin, it's a business partner, and you promise him, Yar, I'll give it you. You know genuinely he can knock on any day and say, look, Yar, I need it now.
So does mortgage fall into dain mu'ajjal or
so that's mu'ajjal. That's a delayed one.
So
because there isn't. Now when you are contracted to paying back a loan over a mortgage ranges from 20 to 35, even 40 years now. That's not mani' of zakah. That doesn't hinder zakah in any way. Because you know you're contracted. So put it this way. You've got a car on lease and you're paying every month. That's not mani' of zakah. I've got a phone contract. Is that going to stop me from zakah now? It doesn't. These things don't stop you because you're contracted to a long-term contract. It doesn't stop you from zakah.
So let's switch it up. What if you're on the other side now?
Okay.
You're the lender. So I've lent money out, and I know I'm going to receive money. Let's say, I'm supposed to receive it just before the day of zakah.
Good. regardless of when you're going to receive it. One criteria ulama mentioned, if you know you will receive it, there is a high likelihood that brother will give it back to me. Unless you absolutely lose hope, you've been chasing him for years and years and he's not giving it you, forget it, he ain't going to give it now. If you know there is a good likelihood he will give it to me in a year time, 2 years time, you got to ask yourself, whose wealth is it? Is it yours or his? Come on, let me ask the live audience, whose wealth is it? It's mine. If I've given you that money, regardless you move back home, wherever you go, you move to America, could you ever claim that is your money? No, you'll always say, I have borrowed it from Hafiz and I still owe him. And I know there is still a good chance I will get my money back.
So
I am responsible to pay Zakkah upon it. Even though it's not in my possession,
okay,
it's with you, it's still my money. And I can still knock on your door and say, Hafiz, I need it now. Grab it from somebody else, from your neighbor or sibling, ask your mum, dad, get me the money, I need it tomorrow. It's my money, I need to pay Zakkah upon it.
Get me the Zakkah amount of it, at least right now.
The Zakkah amount of it, I need to pay.
So if I've lent out 10 grand,
yep,
and day of Zakkah comes, it's not with me right now, my friend's got it, for example,
yeah,
I still have to give that Zakkah on it.
I till today, I'm not going to share a lot, but I do support quite a few people privately. And a lot of them I've lent money to. Every year, so when it comes to my Zakkah calculation date, a week in advance, I actually ring all those people, and they know I do every year, to ask, have you got the latest figures? Because I may have miscalculated something. Could you just remind me how much you owe me? And they would remind me, this is how much I owe. It's like every year I keep on top of them. This is how much you've given back to me. This is how much you still owe me. How much is it that you still owe? Let's suppose it's £500. I will add that to my Zakkah calculation.
So as me, the one who's
so
taking
you have to
money,
actively do that.
If I've taken the money from you, 5 grand's in my possession now. In possession meaning in English terms, originally it's your money.
Yeah.
So I don't have to give the Zakkah on it.
You've got my money, yeah?
You've done it for me.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah. It's my money, I pay Zakkah. It's with you at the moment.
Right.
But it's still my money.
Okay, fair enough.
And similarly, if you've lent it to someone, you pay Zakkah upon that money that somebody else has got of yours.
Okay. Well done.
So I've got another question that ties into the first one, just going back to the properties. A person, he owns his own homes and he's got 2 other properties. So property 1 is let out and he receives rent for that, let's just say £12,000 a year.
Okay.
Property 2 is on the market to be sold, let's say the value is £300,000, and that's been bought to sell for a profit. What is the zakat for each of the properties?
Okay. Rented property, you only pay on the savings you have from that rent. So if £12,000 are his rental income after a year, because he's getting £1,000 per month from rent, after all your expenses, so let's say you've got your annual boiler service, you've got your whatever checks and stuff like that here, regulations you meet, and you're left with, let's say, £1,000. £1,000, yeah? How many? Was it 1,000? Yeah, so so he's got mortgage as well, let's suppose. You reduce all of that, whatever savings you've got, yeah? At the end of the year, you're only paying on the savings that comes from that property.
After all expenses.
After all expenses. Mortgage, boiler services, rented properties, there are always problems coming up. Yeah, taps are not working, doors not opening, whatever, lock, window, whatever, you got it all. After all the expenses, whatever's left behind, you pay zakat on that.
Zakat is only on your expendable wealth, not your non-expendable that you need to pay towards this.
Exactly. Property that you put on the market for sale, if it's for business purpose, so I've got a property I live in, for example. I've got 2 properties, one's rented, so I've explained that one. And I've got one which is up for sale, and I'm waiting for money to come through for that. I pay zakat on the value of that property.
Is that after the confirmation of the sale, or is that just as it is?
It's there on the market. You've come to your financial year, you pay zakat on it. Because that's an asset of yours right now, isn't it? Just like any other asset you hold, you pay zakat upon your asset, in this case.
Fair enough.
Because as soon as it sells, or even when it sells, that money will go into your financial year anyway, will mingle with the rest of your wealth. At the end of the financial year, whatever money is left behind, you pay zakat upon it. That makes sense? So that's quite a few things we mentioned. Any other scenarios?
I mean, one thing that's ever so evident is just the importance of getting it right. There's no margin for error in your zakah.
Coming from myself as well.
Yeah.
Only in the past year or two since you've been mentioning these, Jummah and stuff, I don't really know. Don't really have a clue on zakat. I think that's the general public. It's a lot of people don't know what to do, how to do it, how to go about it.
And when you look at it, it's actually from the 5 basic pillars of our religion. Bunyan Islam ala khams.
And it's the most neglected one.
The most neglected.
So we all know that for salah we have to do wudu. We know the fard of wudu. We know how to do our salah, ruku, sujood. We learn the du'as.
You're taught it even before you have to do it. You're taught it in maktab.
Yeah. And if zakah was taught in maktab from that young age, and the awareness was there, yeah. Imagine how much everybody would be giving zakah. It's like, the scholars say, if the ummah today was to give zakah properly, without holding back, there would be no one poor left on earth.
You can get rid of poverty, world hunger, all of that.
Yeah. If these big, shuyukh from the Gulf can buy out Manchester United, can buy out Newcastle, for how many billions did they buy it for? 1.2 billion.
Wow.
Now, just that 1.2 billion was probably nothing for them.
Allah forgive the ummah, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
Just give zakah on that 1.2 billion, how much does that come to? And how many countries you could relieve them of their loans and debts that they need to pay to the World Bank? And that entire country you could actually save. Just work. So let's say all the shuyukh got together and paid their zakah to one Muslim country that was in debt to the World Banks.
IMF.
And per year, IMF, yeah? Per year, one country could be relieved and their financial struggles would end. The Muslims would live a happy life. No more poverty.
At the end of the day, we're a slave to the West, and I say we as in the Muslim country, because of our financial situation more than anything. We've taken out so many loans from the IMF that they own us. And so if we could save ourselves and free ourselves of that financial burden that we owe towards these powers, then we could really be en route towards proper independence and proper ruling over ourselves. So, look at the Saudi family. Apparently they're the richest family in the world, all of them together. Just imagine their zakah, what it would actually be. It could literally abolish world hunger.
But they won't. They don't. That's only if they truly give zakah. Where is that zakah going? And zakah, the whole concept of zakah is the wealthy share their wealth with those that don't have that wealth.
Now let's look at the greatest of examples, Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, when he becomes Khalifa. So zakah, you can either give it to the poor person or the needy person, out of respect, or you give it to the Imam, i.e. your political ruler, who will then dispense it. So when he's elected by the companions to be the Khalifa of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are a group of Muslims who say, well, look, the Prophet's not alive, we used to give it to him, so now he's physically left this world, we're not going to give it to anyone anymore. In the sight of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, they were as good as kuffar.
Yes.
As good as kuffar, infidels. Why? Because it's from the fundamentals of the religion. And the Prophet himself sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Umirtu an uqatil an-nas." I've been ordered to strive against the people, hatta yashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah wa yuqimu as-salah wa yu'ti az-zakah, and etc. So the Prophet said that I've been commanded to strive until they pray the salah and give the zakah. So in line with that prophetic injunction, he went and he said, if someone even doesn't give a small portion of what they used to give in the time of the Prophet, I'd go to war with him to get it off him, because it's not his.
And he did go to war with them.
And he did. It's called the Hurub al-Ridda.
Yeah. Those people that refuse to give zakah, in order to discipline them back into Islam, so that they submit to the ahkam. Had he not done that, that would open the floodgates for the entire ummah to pick and choose their fara'id.
And there's an issue of terms as well. We say donation of zakah, and we say give your zakah charity. We really need to get out of this. Zakah is a tax. And the more we start treating it like a religious tax, more people will actually get serious about it. It's not a donation. This is a tax. You must give it. You owe it to Allah, you owe it to the religion. And those people out there, they have a right to your wealth. إنما الصدقات الفقراء وفي أموالهم حق للسائل والمحروم. It's their right. So we as a Muslim community really need to make effort and juhud in this regards.
That I think leads us to the next discussion then, is who is eligible to take zakah.
Yes.
That's a big, heavy discussion on its own.
Yeah.
So far, we've discussed who needs to give zakah. That's us out here.
Let me ask a question. This really demonstrates where we're at as a society. Hafiz was Imam in so many masjids now. How many masjids do you have influence of? Just without naming them. At least
Let's
5-6 mosques he has reach within. And he's been teaching the deen for how long now? When was the first Daris you ever taught?
First, that's... Don't know. Come on, change subject, man.
Now, all of these durus you've taught, it's been what, 10 to 20 people maximum in your class. It's not been the whole Muslim community.
Look
how little people actually come in to learn the fara'id of the religion. How small those classes actually are. You know, I think the biggest one we've got right now is our weekend class. But other than that, the daily time, how many times you've taught Nur al-Idah, where these things are discussed in detail. Quduri is discussed in detail. But those classes have never been more than 15-20 people, unfortunately. And it's fundamentals. It's not teaching knowledge that you're not going to use for the next 15-20 years. It's knowledge that's applicable to you right now, in the immediate. We really need to up our game in this regards, and who's eligible for zakah, who's not, etc.
Offer food and more people will come.
Offer food and more people will come. Fortunately, it's the reality of the day. So, zakah lessons followed by Langar Sharif, inshallah. That's next on the itinerary.
So to quickly just touch on it, I know we're coming to the end of the hour. We could even increase it, and then because I really want to use this opportunity to go through the detail. So who is fit to take zakah is a subject on its own, and we'll discuss that.
Yeah. And one thing I want to highlight before we do conclude is the idea of zakah actually instills within you to be a businessman and to proactively amass wealth. Amassing wealth is not an issue in and of itself.
Yes.
Because if you keep giving zakah every year, eventually you're going to run out of wealth. If you don't invest, if you don't earn, and if you don't, try to increase and better your financial situation. So it's very important. And I think there's a big taboo you haven't touched on, if you do want to mention it, is women and their bridal gifts.
Next episode.
Women and bridal gifts.
I've got
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.